All right, welcome everybody inside the coach's office, special midweek edition. Brian, how are we doing today?
Well, it feels like it's a lot later than it is. I was ready to turn in at 5:30, but gearing up for some Thursday night football and ready to talk with you.
Yeah, so when we get these primetime Lions game, whether it's a Sunday night football or Monday night football, we kind of got to adjust a little bit. I think we might have to do these little midweek, short little abbreviated shows just to talk a little bit of Lions because obviously big outcome that came out of Sunday night. Lions fall 16-9 to the Eagles. Big loss for the Lions, and it actually, man, it was such a difference between a win and a loss. A win would have put them as the 1 seed. A loss actually knocks them out of the playoff picture. Pretty wild to see the playoff picture, the playoff, what the NFC looks like in terms of the playoff seeding right now, and the Lions are not in it. Brian, what were your initial thoughts, coming out of that game and in that loss to the Eagles for the Lions?
I think like any Lions fan, some frustration and some wasted opportunities and a lot of questions that I'm sure we're about to dive into. Like you said, an opportunity to prove some of the doubters wrong, right? Like, can the Lions win a big game? They've won big games on the road, yes, but like against like this type of competition, right? The Eagles are the reigning Super Bowl champions and probably going to get the 1 seed now in the NFC. So, a lot of, hoping they would break through on some of those opportunities, but they didn't. And I think just frustration and some questions that are questions and concerns that I think are valid. Every team is flawed. Every championship team is flawed to a degree. It doesn't have to be scorched earth, end of the world type stuff, but definite cause for concern.
Yeah, obviously the biggest issue I think coming out of that is, once again, it is the offensive line. And when the offensive line does not perform, the entire offense falls apart. And as we've seen throughout the years under the Dan Campbell regime, this offense goes how the offensive line goes, and they struggled. I mean, Philadelphia dominated up front, both in the run game and more specifically when Jared Goff dropped back to pass. I mean, he had guys in his face constantly. And as we've seen with Jared Goff, when he does not handle pressure well, he just doesn't. He's not a mobile quarterback. And just in general, when he's got guys in his face, he does not perform.
Yeah, I mean, typically a lot of quarterbacks struggle with pressure in their face, but him, it feels like in particular when he's pressured, for the reason you said, he has struggled. And the Eagles are good, obviously, and the Lions haven't been dominated like that every week up front. And so now they've got an opportunity. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. If you split the next couple games, you're favored these next 3 home games, man. You got to win them all and be 9-4. And I think that's what we think is going to happen. I feel like their comments this week, there was a bit of sense of urgency. I felt like they get that right. And these are games they got to win now, these next 3 games. If they slip up at all and, they're 7-6 or something, it's like, things are going to get pretty uneasy around here. And you said it, the offensive line is really where it begins and ends for this team. And but the good thing is, again, I think they can get right these next 3 weeks, and then I'm sure their staff is thinking like, okay, we'll see the Eagles down the road, and maybe they're coming up with something in the back, or they have something in the back of their mind for when that time comes.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is concerning because it's not exactly something that can be correctable, I think, right away with the offensive line, because it feels like it's more of a health issue, a personnel issue, maybe to start, but even more than that, currently just a health issue. Mahogany going down was huge. Because we talked about it really, I mean, before the season really even started, about how they just don't have a lot of depth and they could not afford to lose anybody. So losing somebody like a Christian Mahogany, they're going to lose, I'm not sure if they've said it's season ending at this point, but we know he's going to be gone for a long time, and doesn't look like that's something that's going to be easily replaced. And then you add in that, I mean, Decker's been playing hurt really all year. Sewell, I think Sewell's more hurt than anybody's letting on. We saw him get beat quite a bit, which is not. I mean, Sewell's, when he's healthy, he might be the best offensive lineman in football, and we're seeing him getting beat, just straight up beat 1-on-1 quite a bit lately. And I think that has a lot to do with his health. And I think he's playing hurt. And I think a lot of these guys are playing hurt right now.
Probably. And it's a long season, like you said. Like you don't know if Mahogany's coming back or not. Right now he's in the IR. But if you can find a way, again, these next couple games and get by without everybody being 100%, like Kirby Joseph hasn't played in a while either. I know it's a different side of the ball. The defense has been playing well. But, like, you know, you survive and get some guys back for that stretch run. They can still make a run, right? They can still go on a deep run in the playoffs, of course. So, but you're right, definite concerns. And I know it's been talked about all week, and I kind of felt the same way. You know, you're 0 for whatever on 3rd and 4th down. Yeah. And that, like, us as coaches, like, there are times like, yeah, we're all about that and that's great. But, like, man, like when you lose a game by a touchdown, and, you know, you're a couple kicks away or you know, a punt away, play defense away from potentially winning, you're going to feel it a little bit, you know, and Dan Campbell alluded to that a little bit, you know, right. In one of his press conferences talked about, maybe they were too aggressive or something like that. I don't have the actual quote in front of me, or maybe they change a little bit, but, you know, I've been critical of him because I think two things can be right at once. You know, he's done awesome things for this organization, but there are times during games, and you can go back to the NFC Championship game where you're like, man, like, you can't play like that in this league, right? And that's going to come back to bite you in the ass, and it's happened. And then the other thing, back to the Jared Goff thing, and I get in arguments all the time. Like, this isn't to say he isn't elite, right? Because he's played in the Super Bowl and he played in that championship game, and I know there were a lot of reasons for it, but in the biggest game last year against Washington, he didn't have a great game, you know, and then we go on the road and he doesn't have a great game. Like, at some point you need your quarterback to win those games for you. At some point you need to, and it's not blaming this all on him, right? It was a combined offensive effort. Amon-Ra St. Brown dropped passes that you didn't think you'd see him drop, right? But it is a combined effort. And again, though, like, they're going to have to win a road playoff game. And I think I sent it to text to you. I said they're not winning a road playoff game, you know, and at some point they're going to be on the road.
Not outside. Not outside against a defense like that.
No, unless – but, like, see, the theory is that I think the Lions could win a low-scoring defensive battle. Like, that's what that was. And they were in position, like, you know, a couple things here and there, get one of those 4th downs, right? Or kick a field goal. Like, who knows? Like, I think they can win one of those.
Well, let's get into that a little bit, Brian, because I've always been on the side of defending Dan Campbell when it comes to 4th down decisions and going forward on 4th down, because he's playing to his strength. He's playing to his offense and his passing game that has been such a strength for the last couple of years. And I agreed with that. And the defense has been a little bit more on the lower side, especially last year when they had all the injuries. I remember the game against Green Bay. Like, they had talked about it going into the game. Like, we're putting this on the offense. Like, we're going to, unless it's just like 4th and 15 or something crazy, like they were planning on going for it a ton, and they did. And it worked for them, and they won that game. That was a huge factor in them winning the division that year. But this was totally flipped. The offense was struggling mightily, and the defense was playing fantastic. And this was a situation where I think going for it so many times really backfired on him, not only obviously because they didn't get it, but he wasn't playing to his strength. The strength in that game was his defense. The defense was playing great, and the Eagles' offense has been struggling for a few weeks now. Like, instead of playing to his strength, he played into what was a weakness in that game. It was their offense against Philly's defense, and obviously that played out going 0 for 5 on 4th down.
Yeah, I mean, there's a line. I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth. Like, there's, on the one hand, it's you are who you are, and that's your personality, and you're going to live and die by it. And I've seen comments like that about Dan Campbell, right? You know, we're excited when he does that stuff and it works, when we just gotta have to accept it when it doesn't work, right? You know, there's that logic. But the other part of me is like, okay, like, these guys are pros. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, we are who we are to an extent, but, like, it's not like they're going to be lost if you don't go for it on 4th down, right? They're not going to be like, what the, you know, they're not going to fight them or anything. Like, they might say, hey, yeah, coach, no, let's go for this. But at the end of the day, no, they want to win games too, right? But they're players and they want the ball in their hands too, and they feel that is probably going to give them the best chance to win, you know, anyway, as it is. So, yeah, again, it's just when it doesn't work, it's magnified, right? When it doesn't work in a big game, it's magnified. And this, like we talked about, felt like a pretty big game, and it didn't work. Yep.
But it just like one of those things that, obviously we've been there as coaches. Like you go into a game, you think it's going to be an offensive shootout, and all of a sudden, as you're going through the game, you get into maybe halfway through the second quarter, especially you get past halftime, you realize, okay, this is not the game we anticipated. It's more of a defensive battle. The wind obviously was a huge factor in that game. Weather was a factor. Maybe they weren't quite expecting going in with their game plan. You got to adjust. You got to adjust to what the vibe of the game and how the game has been going. And the strengths you thought going in might change as the game goes, depending on the circumstances, depending on the atmosphere. And I just don't feel like they did a very good job at all in that game adjusting to how the flow of the game was going.
I wonder at what point the players turn him off. And I'm not saying it's gonna happen. I'm not saying there's a mutiny, but like typically speaking, like the theory has always been coaches like Dan Campbell, those rah-rah type guys, right? Culture type guys, they're great in college because every 4 years you get new kids, right? And you get new players, right? And that's tougher to do in the pros when you're not successful, right? So think about Pete Carroll and his stuff. It was awesome, right? But sooner or later that like guys get worn out from that when it's not working and they're hearing the same thing over and over. And then when things don't play out in the game, the in-game decisions don't work the way, they have before. So I'm not saying that's going to happen. I just wonder if there's a point where it's like, okay, we've reached our ceiling with Dan Campbell. I'm not saying get rid of Dan Campbell. I'm not saying anything like that, but I wonder. You're right. And I wonder if he changes or he can change.
Well, I did find it interesting, some of the interviews he had this week where he talked about like, we got to play to the strength of our team. And he didn't mention the offensive line when he was talking about the strengths, which he always, and justifiably so for the past few years, has talked about the offensive line as being a strength. And he didn't mention that. And I wonder if he's thinking back, like, I didn't play to the strength of my team in that game, because he is one to admit when he's wrong. And they do adjust from week to week. It was just that in game, I thought they could have adjusted a little bit more and played to their strength, which was their defense in that game. But I'm wondering if he came out of that thinking, man, maybe my offensive line is beat up. We're not as strong as we've been in the past, and my defense is balling out right now. And maybe we needed to adjust how we go into these games and realize that our defense is really a strength right now.
So, this was something I thought about too. And I can't stand Chris Collinsworth. Watching him, something about him bugs me as a commentator. But he made a good point on one of the fourth downs where the Lions lined up, and instead of snapping the ball right away, when the Eagles, it didn't look like they were ready and they were set. Yeah. And one of them, had his head turned around. I can't remember which player it was, but like he made a good point. I wonder if they're still not 100%, not on the same page, but not fluid with everything that John Morton and Dan Campbell are doing with the in-game play calling, right? Like maybe the players still don't know their feel yet, where with Ben Johnson, it was kind of like, all right, we know what's coming, right? I wonder if there's a little bit of that. Or it could be overthinking it. Like I said, they're professionals, man. Like they've gone through systems before. They should be able to adapt. So, but that was something that I thought about. I noticed as well. I was like, yeah, that was kind of interesting. They weren't ready. It didn't seem like they were ready to go.
Yeah. Well, I still go back to it. Like the interior offensive line, right? Last year we got towards the end of the season when they ended up going and winning the division and going in that run, 15-2 was incredible. But especially those games down the stretch and that final game against Minnesota where everything was on the line, the last regular season game of the year. Your interior offensive line was Mahogany, Ragnow, and Zeitler. Zeitler left in free agency. Ragnow retired. Mahogany's out. That's your entire interior offensive line is gone. And that was the strength of your team. If you were to say, there's so many great players, so many great groups that they have on that team. But if you were to pick one thing from that team, you would say the offensive line. And now your whole interior offensive line is gone. And your tackles, Decker and Sewell, Decker we know is playing incredibly hurt. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure Sewell's playing hurt. So you're going to have to, whether he wants to or not, they're going to have to adjust because they just don't have the offensive line like they've had in the past.
Well, it's funny too. Like, God, going into this offseason now, obviously they're going to, like, Decker might retire, right? And they are beat up and not 100% healthy and get a little older. Like they're gonna have to retool that offensive line, and they just gave JMO a big extension.
Yeah,
He's the second or third offensive option on your team.
yeah.
You're gonna have to pay guys like they're not. I mean, they're not gonna be able to keep everybody. There's gonna be. That's why this window, man. I go back to it. Like my friends don't like it when I say it. That NFC Championship game, I think that was their shot because they had everything lined up. You have a 17-point second half lead, and you don't come through when things were perfect. And now things haven't been perfect for the last 2 years, and just as a result. But I mean, again, it's not over.
It's rare where you're going to get that situation that they had where their team was red hot and as healthy as you could ask for going into an NFC Championship game. And like you said, he had a 17-point lead at halftime. Like, it's very difficult to get back into that situation because it's so hard to stay healthy and keep a team healthy throughout an entire season. And we saw it last year with their defense. Now this year we're seeing it with the offensive line.
I think, and I'll be criticized just like other fans that are, you're that Lions fan, you can't have it both ways, or you're too critical. But like I don't think Dan Campbell walks on water. I think he's done great things here, but I also think it's okay to criticize and question things aren't going right with always making excuses, right? Like, oh, they're not healthy, or oh, they're this, or it was cold, bad weather on the road, Jared Goff wore gloves, or whatever all that nonsense was, right? Like, at some point, it's okay to say, like, yeah, man, this didn't work, But that's neither here nor there. They lost a football game to a really good team, and regroup, and hopefully they see him again in the second or third round of the playoffs.
Yeah, so I mentioned it at the open, but I want to pop this up right now and just to look at it because it's just so jarring to look at the playoff seating right now in the NFC and to not see the Lions logo in there. They are currently 8th in the NFC, and it's obviously this is going to play itself out as we go throughout the season, but it is wild that the Lions are not in there right now, and it just shows you, man, the NFC is pretty deep this year in terms of like the upper half. Usually you have like your top 3 or 4 teams that you feel pretty good about, and then there's just the last couple of teams that kind of sneak into the playoffs usually get knocked out early. But you look at it this year, like even the first team out is the Lions, and obviously people would still consider them, and I think we would still consider them a Super Bowl contender, even though they're currently not in the playoff picture. It's wild right now in the NFC.
I think we're going to see it out in a couple weeks in LA and Chicago, but if there's a playoff game in Philly, in Los Angeles, in Seattle, in Green Bay, do you think the Lions win any of those games against those teams?
I think LA. I don't think LA is. I don't think that's home field at all for LA. Whoever goes in there, usually it's the other team is a home game for them. So I don't think in terms of atmosphere, and it's also indoors. Fair. It's a dome. Right, I think that's the best scenario for the Lions if they're going to have to go on the road.
God, yeah, that's a problem, man. That's scary. But again, it's going to play out. We're halfway through the season, just past halfway through the season, right? And there's 7 more weeks to figure it all out. So who knows? In 3-4 weeks, the Lions could be even more beat up than they are now. The Eagles, who knows? So it's going to play out, but definitely concerning, man, right now. But when these next 3 games, you're at 9-4. Okay, then it gives you some leeway to potentially, have a hiccup the rest of the season. But it's critical these next 3 weeks. Critical.
If you look at that bracket right now, if there's a team in there, because obviously if the Lions are going to make the playoffs, somebody's going to have to come out of there. Yep. What team do you think is the most likely, or the most flawed, or the biggest fraud, I guess maybe, of the teams that are in there right now?
Oh, I think the Bears.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think that would be.
I would agree.
Yep, and that's a wild card. I mean, Caleb Williams is obviously playing really well, but still, that's not a team I would trust to say like, oh, look out for them, kind of thing. I don't have their schedule in front of me, but again, I mean, the NFL is the NFL, and
well, they have one of the toughest schedules left of any team in the NFL. They still got to play Green Bay twice. They got to play the Lions at the end of the year. They still got to play Philly. So they still got a very tough schedule to go in front of them, where they had more of their easier part of their schedule was more in the beginning, and that was flip-flop. Where the Lions, the rest of their schedule is a little bit easier, where they kind of gone through the tough part of the gauntlet of their schedule already.
Yeah, well, and again, looking at the Bears' schedule, they've beaten up average Dallas team, a bad Vegas team, a bad Washington team, a bad New Orleans team, a bad Cincinnati team, and a bad New York Giants team. Right? So, yeah, they're the team that I would say is a fraud, and I agree with you there, and I think they'd be the one out.
Well, I mean, they've played 3 division games. They went in Detroit. Detroit absolutely murdered them.
Yeah.
They lost the opening game to Minnesota at home, and then they should have lost to Minnesota on Sunday. If they didn't get that big kick return at the end there, they set them up to get that game-winning field goal. They would have been 0-3 in the division.
Yeah.
And we'd be looking a lot different. Things would be looking a lot different if Minnesota would have been able to hold on to that game. Everything would have been really tight in the NFC North. Instead, you got the Bears sitting there as the division leader.
I mean, it would be nice for the Lions. I mean, if we don't think they're going to get the 1 seed in a bye, it'd be nice going into that Week 18 game against the Bears, having something already clinched and having an idea of where they stand in the playoffs, whether they're the division champs or they're at least hosting a game or what. So that way they could rest some guys and not have to worry about it. But that's a long way off.
Well, we were not sure about Campbell with how he handles things. Last year they went into San Francisco with nothing to play for, and he still played all his guys. So
yeah, true.
Who knows? He may, even if that game means nothing, he might still play his guys.
It's true. Yeah, it's true.
So if you say now, Brian, I mean, right now as we're looking at this, the Lions are not in the playoffs, but when it's all said and done, we get to the end of the regular season. Is this team winning the division?
I still think they're the division champion, and I've said that all along. I mean, we talked about it. This is the part of the schedule. Win these next 3 against the Giants, Packers, and Cowboys all at home. Be 9-4 going into LA. The next 2 weeks, the Rams and Steelers, you split. The Vikings and Bears. Even if you split those, you're at 11 wins and you're feeling good. I think they're the division champ. I do.
Yeah, I agree. I still think it's all going to come down to that Thanksgiving game. Obviously, the Bears have put a wrench into things right now, but I still think when it's all said and done, it's going to be who wins that Thanksgiving game is going to end up winning the NFC North, and I think it will be the Lions. But definitely a lot more interesting than I anticipated this division being. I thought it was going to be a 2-team race with the Lions and Packers. I thought if there was going to be a third team, I thought it would be the Vikings. Yeah. And it turns out that the Bears are going to be that team and Ben Johnson. And I want to ask you that about, Brian, is with Ben Johnson. Are you a little surprised about how quickly things have turned around for Chicago and how quickly he's gotten things rolling there?
I mean, he's an offensive guy. I mean, maybe, but again, Caleb Williams is a talented quarterback. You know what I'm saying? And he's playing really good football. 13 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. So, I mean, yes and no. Just because he's got – it's the most important position in sports. He's getting high-quality play, high-level play out of it. And their offense is playing really well. And their defense has played well too. I mean, they have talent. They have talent with the when they traded the receiver Moore who did they trade? They traded and got Rome Odunze is on their team. Like they're loaded. They've got good talent on their offense. So no, not surprised. That was a pretty long-winded answer. No, I'm not surprised.
No, I'm surprised that they're 7-3. I will say that. I thought he would get things rolling and they would be competitive. I didn't think they would be winning games like this where we're past the midway point of the season and they're leading the NFC North right now. I think that's pretty surprising. Yeah,
no, I agree with that. If they're 5-5, then yeah, totally different. I mean, we'd be okay with there. But again, let's see how the next 7 weeks play out.
Yeah. If they end up winning this division and going through this gauntlet of the schedule that they have left, he undoubtedly he'll be the coach of the year.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with that. And so here's the by the way, here's the trade I'm talking about because I was rambling and sounded like an idiot. So the Bears traded. Am I doing this right? They traded with the Panthers of draft pick. The Panthers ended up getting Bryce Young. Bears received DJ Moore, 2023 first-round pick, which was 9 overall, a second-round pick in 2023, and then a 2024 first-round pick. So, like, they got some players and some draft picks back. So they're just young, right? And they're just young, but they're talented.
Yeah, and Ben Johnson is he's missed in Detroit, and he's doing some great things in Chicago. And that I'm sure there's a lot of Lions fans, including myself, that are a little disappointed in that, because Ben Johnson did come off a little full of himself, kind of in the offseason, some things that he said, and took a little jab at Jared Goff and that, and but man, he's backing it up. There's no doubt about it. You can't deny it. They're the division leaders right now. So, but it is going to be interesting. Like we said, their schedule gets tougher for them. Schedule gets a little bit easier for the Lions, and the Lions they only have one outside game left on the schedule, oddly enough, and that's not until the final game of the season against Chicago. So, things are shaping up for the Lions to be able to correct some things and get rolling again. But yeah, definitely a concerning game, just in terms of how things went, and some of the decisions that were made, and how the offensive line played. It was definitely jarring on Sunday night. And one more thing we didn't even get into that we should have touched on, the pass interference that was called at the end of that game. I was pretty frustrated, because you watch, even if you're not a Lions fan and you're just watching that game, you spend 3 hours to watch that game, and it wasn't the most entertaining game in the world. It was, obviously a defensive battle, but you get to that point where you're thinking, okay, the Lions, they get their stop. The Lions are going to get the ball with a minute and a half to go. They got all these playmakers. You got these two powerhouse teams going for the 1 seed. The Lions are going to get a chance to try to drive down and score a touchdown, if not send it in overtime, maybe try to go for 2 and go for the win. And then all of a sudden a flag comes out of nowhere. And it's like, what in the world, man? Like, this is one of the worst pass interference calls I've ever seen.
Calls like that, and the non-call when the Rams and the Saints were in the NFC Championship game, and the Saints were going to win the game, right? Those two are non-calls or calls, was where I start to question, like, okay, should we be able to review penalties? And then obviously it's a judgment call, and you run into some issues there. But yeah, I agree with you. It was at that point in the game, that was rough to take for Lions fans.
Well, we talked about the officials with the Kansas City game, the last Sunday night game that they played, and where it was clear that there was some type of call or something. They were buzzed from New York. Something went down, right? Yep. And whether they said it or not, we know something went down there, right? Like, why can't they just make a call? Just make a call. Like, you got your commentator. You talked about Collinsworth. Kudos to him. He called it out. He said this was awful. Like, this is going to decide the game. This is an awful, awful, awful call.
Yep.
Why can't somebody call down and just say, hey, that was not, pick up the flag. That was not pass interference. Keep the game going. Let's go.
I'm sure they can. And in a lot of ways, unless it's like blatantly bad at the end of the game, it's kind of like hockey referees and the overtime playoffs, right? They just swallow their whistle and let them play it out. Like, unless it's like, so obvious you have to call it, let them play and let it be. And that didn't happen. And it's not to say that the Lions were going to score and make it.
No, but we just get robbed of the chance to see that. It's theater. Yep. It's, like you said, you watch 3 hours to kind of get to that point. To see some, dramatics at the end, and you get denied that as a fan. It's frustrating.
No doubt.
But we're going to move on a little bit. Let's talk a little bit of Tigers baseball. Anytime we get a chance to sneak in some Tigers baseball, we got to do it. And some big news for the Tigers this week. Gleyber Torres accepted his qualifying offer, a 1-year, $22 million deal. He will be back for the 2026 season. He will be back as the starting second baseman. And Brian, how would you feel about this? I know, there's a little bit of concern about maybe this is going to block Kevin McGonigal, one of the top prospects in baseball, the Tigers' top prospect. It's just an absolute hitting phenom. There was some talks that maybe he would start off, on the opening day roster as a starting second baseman. But now we're starting to see this report comes out, obviously after Gleyber Torres accepts the qualifying offer, but we also are starting to see that maybe McGonigal might be held off. Maybe he's going to not come up until maybe August. It gives him another year, with this option and whatnot. So what are your initial thoughts with Gleyber Torres accepting qualifying offer and going to be back with the Tigers next season?
Initially, I was happy. I'm pleased with it because for the majority of the first part of the season, up until that last month or so, when come to find out he was hurt with a sports hernia, he was probably the Tigers' most consistent hitter and most reliable hitter, right? And a guy that you're like, oh, okay, I'm glad he's up to bat in this situation. He's probably going to put the ball in play, right? And so that made me happy that he accepted it. It might depend on, though, like if this hinders the Tigers' ability to sign somebody else in the infield, a la Alex Bregman, right? So that would be frustrating. And then you're like, okay, maybe it wasn't worth it. Maybe you can get by with, a platoon of Colt Keith there, and who knows, Zach McKinstry playing, but it gives you the ability to sign Alex Bregman. I don't know. So that'll be interesting. You and I differ a little bit, and we've talked about this for a while, even before these reports came out. It's not that I'm not high on McGonigal, obviously, but I can understand, like, I didn't expect him to be up early next season, right? If he makes the opening day roster, I mean, awesome. But I didn't expect it. And a lot of that is just the things you read and what you hear is, like, especially with minor league guys, like that is just a huge jump to not hit in AAA at all. Like, typically they say if you're good enough to hit in AA, you're good enough to be in the pros. However, that's a huge jump. And, if I heard Scott Harris say this or something similar, that was really cool. Like, you don't want to rush guys in terms of, well, he needs to work on hitting that outside fastball, that outside off-speed pitches, right? Or anything hard and inside. And you'd rather him work on that in the minor leagues as opposed to getting up to the big club when it really matters, right? So who knows, like, all that's going into it. If he has a hole, which it doesn't look like he has many, right? Maybe that's something they focus on before they bring him up. But overall, we'll probably see him up at some point. And I think you still have to be happy with Gleyber Torres as long as I'm sure they have a plan, right? Okay, what happens if he accepts it? Here's our course of action, right? If he doesn't accept it, okay, here's our course of action. Either way, they felt pretty comfortable about offering him the qualifying offer. So overall, feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I'm never going to be upset about a all-star second baseman coming back for another year. And like you said, came out that he had the sports hernia, and that would make a lot of sense because that's when the struggles began, because he was the most consistent hitter on the Tigers. I mean, he had the most professional at bats. Like, when he came up to the plate, you felt good about things. Like, he's not just going to swing and miss, 3 straight pitches and he's going to be back in the dugout. Like, he's going to give you a good, solid, professional at bat every time he comes up. And you start to see kind of less of that down the stretch, and you find out they had the injury. So it kind of makes sense. So if you can get that first half Torres throughout an entire season, I mean, you're getting an all-star caliber second baseman. So I know some people were kind of upset, like, like I brought up, maybe this is blocking McGonigal, but I mean, I know he's 21 years old. Yeah, I know he's incredibly young, but I just think this is one of those rare instances where, like, this guy's ready, man. This guy's ready to go. But if they want to wait until August, like, I guess that's on them to do it. And he can prove it. Like, if he has an incredible spring and he's just like one of the best hitters in spring camp, like, I can't see them being like, yeah, we're going to send you to Toledo for 3 months. Like, if he's red hot and it continues to be red hot, even if it's like into April, like early May, like, when he's red hot, like, I can't imagine them not bringing him up. Like, if he's hitting, they're going to bring him up.
No, you're probably right. It was the other thing about Gleyber Torres, like, he kind of reminds me of a poor man's Placido Polanco a little bit, right? Like, Polanco was, I think, a little bit better at contact, but Torres has a little bit more power, but similar players, right? And
Polanco's a better defensive player too.
Polanco's a better defensively, yep, sure. So it's what are they going to do now? Again, it's fascinating, the log jam in the infield, like, and that doesn't include a possible Bregman signing. You know what I mean? And so there's a lot of moving parts, and I think you screenshotted me their roster, and you're like, hey, some of these guys got to get traded. Like, somebody's got to go. But back to your McGonigal point, I don't know if you saw the ESPN article today by Jeff Passan talking about, what the Tigers are going to do with Skubal and the 3 options that everybody talks about. Trade them, keep them, and trade them at the deadline, or keep them and lose them for a compensatory pick. But one of the scouts in the league mentioned what you've mentioned and we've talked about for a long time, where he said that, if the thinking is Scott Harris's belief that the Tigers' best chance to make a run are in 27 and 28. You know what I mean? And that's another reason why with McGonigal and Max Clark and their young guys, I can see them not like play the long game, right? That's the job of a general manager and a team president when you're putting together an organization. Play the long game. Don't rush those guys up.
I can understand not rushing the guys up. Okay. And you think, like you said, 27, 28, maybe that's where the core of the guys that Harris drafted. But, we've talked about this, windows. Right? We talk about it all the time with the Lions, but we've also talked about it with the Tigers. And I brought up the point, like, you can have multiple windows. And there's a window right now for the 26th season. And that's a Tarek Skubal window. And I know Scott Harris has mentioned, I don't believe in a Tarek Skubal window. Like, okay, he can say that publicly. But you just look at the team and how close they were. They were one play away from beating Seattle. Seattle was one play away from beating Toronto. Toronto was one play away from beating LA. Like, that's how close they are to winning the whole thing. They're right there. They're right there in the mix. And this entire team on paper right now, this entire team is back from last season. Yeah. So I feel like you're getting Torres for 1 year, Skubal for 1 year.
So I think
1 year, Flaherty's 1 year. So why not go all in? Maybe it's a huge 1 year deal for somebody, like maybe it's outside the box. Maybe it's like a Kyle Schwarber, somebody in that range where you give him like a 1 year, $40 million, and you go for it for this 1 year, knowing that, okay, this roster is going to be a lot different in 27. We're going to bring up our young guys and then we'll adjust. You also got the collective bargaining agreement. Who knows if there's going to be a lockout, all that stuff. Right. But for 26, you got to plan for 26, and I think you got to go for it, or at least attempt to go for it in 26 with the roster you got coming back.
Yeah, well, that leads credence then to that your point. Yes, if you're going to sign a free agent to go for right now, absolutely. You can keep McGonigal down and still go for it in 2026. I think is my point, right? So but to your point though. With that, okay, Schwarber or somebody like that, Kyle Tucker, who knows, right? Who's off the roster? Like what? Then what's the move? Do you trade Kerry Carpenter for pitching? Like he's a fan favorite. Not that matters. The Tigers traded Curtis Granderson, who's a fan favorite, right? But who goes? Schwarber, does he play first in DH? Okay, goodbye Torque. Like, there's a lot to it.
So that's somebody like Schwarber. I'm not crazy about the Schwarber. I just see that as a possible.
At your point,
maybe sign a 1 year deal. Yes. So I think Bregman and Bichette are going to be more the longer term deals.
I think you and I could have a fun episode going through maybe like the 3 or 4 Tigers that we think are going to would be the most likely to not be a Tiger next year. I mean, because there's a few. There's definitely a few. Like we've said, we don't think they run it back just like this. We don't.
Yeah, they can't.
You can't, because you got a great year out of Zach McKinstry. You got a great year out of some guys. Like, is Parker Meadows going to be healthy? Are they going to have a Matt Vierling? Like, right? Like, yeah, I don't see it. But
there's still so many different directions they could go. I know. Like we're just now scratching the surface. Like now, because Flaherty accepted his offer, so he's back.
Yep.
And then now Torres has accepted his offer, so he's back. So now you got the entire team back. Plus you're going to have Vierling back from injury. So you're already going to have to make some type of move.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to have enough spots for all the guys that are back. So you're already going to have to make some moves in general. And then you talk about, like, are they going to go out and get a guy like a Bregman or a Bichette? They're talking about how they want to go get another starting pitcher. I'm like, well, where's this potential starting pitcher going to fit? Like, somebody's going to have to get moved.
So is there a possibility for a simple 1-for-1, kind of like the Orioles and Angels did the other day? Taylor Ward, all-star outfielder, close to 40 home runs for Grayson Rodriguez, a high level when healthy. Grayson Rodriguez, like, are the Tigers potentially, could they go 1-for-1, right? Instead of like the prospect angle. To me, if they move Carpenter, it'd be a situation like that. It'd be a 1-for-1, right? Potentially, maybe it's a bullpen arm. Right. So I don't know.
I would think it would be more like 3-for-1, 3 coming from the Tigers, because you have, like I say, you just have an abundance of guys right now. Yeah. And this isn't even counting all the prospects. I'm not even talking about McGonigal.
No, I don't think it's
or Max Clark or any of these guys who are knocking on the door.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily I don't think the Tigers are going to package something like Carpenter, Torkelson, McKinstry. Like I could see those guys all being gone in separate deals, is what I'm saying. If they want to go that route.
Well, I'm gonna put my foot down on Carpenter. I do not want to see Carpenter go. I mean, he was their best player in the playoffs.
I agree.
The last 2 years.
No, I don't want to see him go. I don't want to see him go either. But again,
he's proven to be clutch. I mean, he's proven to step up in big moments. The last 2 playoff runs.
Yeah,
he is just not a guy I would want to see get dealt.
No, I'm with you. But then your outfield. I mean, if they're all healthy, Green, Carpenter, Meadows, Vierling, Wenzel Perez. Do you want to throw Javi Baez in there if you want? Like, what do you do? Who's your everyday third baseman?
Yeah, you got Max Clark coming.
And you got Max Clark coming. Yeah, like there's gonna be. I mean, that's baseball, right? I mean, it's good they have talented guys that they can move and get some stuff in return, but
they have a lot of nice players.
Yeah.
A ton of
nice. Yeah.
I mean, a whole roster of nice guys, nice players.
Yes.
Nice guys you want on your team, but not necessarily guys that are going to carry your team.
No,
in playoff runs. And that's the problem.
Yeah, like Schwarber at the end of the season, like when he took off and just was hitting bombs, that's like, okay, that's MVP stuff right there. You know what I'm saying? That's Tigers don't have that guy. Well, they don't yet. I mean, again, they're still so young, but they don't. They're not that. They're not that right.
Riley Green, I think we're more down on Riley Green than most. You probably maybe even a little bit more than me, but he's another guy that could. I know this is a discussion we've had. Like, is he going to change his approach? And is he going to cut down on the strikeouts? But he definitely there is another level to his game.
There is. Well, Dan, let's okay to your point when you said there's a window and they could win it now and they should go after it now in this situation, right? Okay, I think that window, that thought that the Tigers are in kind of win now mode, maybe hinders my opinion of Riley Green. Because if the Tigers are 81-81 and you just look at his numbers and like, oh, okay, that's something he can improve on, right? Instead, it was look at his numbers and like, oh my God, it's the playoffs. How do you go 0 for whatever, right? How do you not do right? But it's magnified. But if they're 81-81 or just in that stage of the rebuild, I don't think anybody is as critical, or I'm not as critical of Riley Green as I am now.
Yeah, you're looking at them all. Tigers got a nice team. They got all these prospects. Oh, Riley Green, 36 home runs. Yeah. A little bit too many strikeouts. We got to cut that down. But pretty nice player. Yes. Because, like you said, because all these games are so magnified because they're going for the division. They're in the playoffs. Every strikeout just feels like the end of the world, and it becomes confirmation bias of like, oh, there it is, another strikeout in a key situation.
Totally.
But in reality, he still is a pretty young player.
24, 25.
24 years old. So, there is another level to his game. But the strikeouts have to come down. Like, they have to. You can't be a 200 strikeout player, especially with what Harris wants this team to be in owning the strike zone. Like, 200 strikeout hitters are just not going to fit on this roster.
What's he going to get paid for? Like, I mean, I wonder how much that comes into play in terms of his mindset of long-term career. Like, I'm not getting paid more if I cut down my strikeouts and my average is a little bit better, right? I'm getting paid because I'm hitting bombs. You know what I'm saying? So it'll be, I don't know. It could just be like I think you mentioned it before, like his dad was his hitting coach and stuff. And there was
some weird things there. Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. Who knows?
But yeah, I mean, just to circle back, it is fascinating, and I'm so enthralled with what the Tigers are going to be doing because there's so many different directions they could go. Like, could they go all in and try to win it in 26? Could they take a step back and trade Skubal and build around the young core that they got coming? Like, there's so many different directions they could go. But with all these one-year deals, it just seems like it's screaming in the face, like all these like red lights flashing in their face, like, hey, you got a bunch of one-year deals. Go ahead and go for it for this season. Try to win it this year, and then you retool going forward with all the young prospects that you got coming up.
Well, one of the things that also stuck out in this Jeff Passan article was that the Tigers have been. It says that they've been sources have said the Tigers were targeting pitching depth early on. Right
That's
now.
what I don't understand. I understand the bullpen, but why starters?
Okay, so to me, because here's
unless they're going to make a move.
Well, that's the thing. My other point to this was, I don't necessarily think they're not contenders if they trade Terry Skubal. If they trade them for a bunch of prospects that won't be here for a couple of years, yes, they're not a championship caliber team this year, right? But if you make a trade and a few of those pieces are major league ready guys or major league guys right now, and you sign another starter or two, okay, why can't they run it back like this and be relatively competitive? Again, because it's not like the AL Central is like the dominant division in baseball, right? I think there's still
a possibility. It just doesn't seem like a very likely trade to be made, though. Like, what team is going to trade major league hitters to go out and get a Tarek Skubal for 1 year to try to go win it all? Like, why would you trade guys off your major league roster if you're going for it all anyways? Like,
I guess it depends on. No, I guess it depends. I mean, it depends on the player. It depends on the hitter. I don't have the roster in front of me. You know what I mean? It depends on. You got to give something to get. You know, like I said, the Orioles and Angels just had a trade where the Angels traded a 37 home run guy to Baltimore. Granted, the Angels aren't in win now mode, but I mean, it just depends. I think. I mean, that's a fair point. I still think if a team can trade for Skubal, and then if they really need it, if they're okay, we're really missing that bat, we're going to go for it. Come July 31st, all right, let's go find somebody to get that bat back. You know what I mean? There's ways you can get creative.
Yeah, it's another another lane they could go down. It's trade Skubal, but not necessarily trading Skubal to get prospects. Trading Skubal to get more offense.
Yeah.
It's. Yeah,
I think I'm with you. I'm with you, though. I think they're easier, or not easier, but the most likely path is to get offense through free agency.
I think it's the best thing. I think 10 years ago, like, yeah, you could wait for the deadline and make a move. But with the playoffs, the expanded wild card, teams just aren't, and just the way teams value prospects now too. It's you just don't see those trades as much anymore. Where you used to just be able to, like, hey, we'll wait to the trade deadline and we'll get a big time name to fill whatever need we got. It's just not that way anymore. It's not that easy. And I think the easiest way to fill your needs is in the off season. Like, whether it's a trade in off season, but more importantly, like, get the free agents. Like, who's out there. Just go get them. And if you got to pay a little bit more, you got to pay a little bit more. But to fill a need, and you're this close to winning it all, and go do it. I just, and you hear the Tigers' name mentioned with Bregman and Bichette. And I'm not hearing that many names with Bichette. Like, it's like the Blue Jays, the Braves, and the Tigers are like the main names. And it's like, it's cool to hear the Tigers' name with those guys again. But if they don't get anybody, like if they don't get any of these big guys, then they just do something on the fringe and make a small trade, or get the Alex Cobb type guys where the guy, he's older, he's injured, but we think
then Skubal might as well
make lemonade out of lemons here. Yeah. Like, I don't want to see that. Like, you're in a position now where you're this close. Like, just go try to win it. Go and try to win it. Like, and I think the fans want it. I think the fans are dying for it. Like, go make that big move. Bring a star in. And I think we saw it with how the last playoff game wasn't sold out. The first time a Tigers playoff game wasn't sold out in their history. Yep. And it's because there isn't this belief that this team can do it, because there isn't those big names. There isn't a big time hitter in the middle of the lineup that you can feel is going to carry this team. And I think they need to go out and get that name, whether it's Bregman or whether it's Bichette, or maybe it's even a Schwarber. They need to go out and get one of these big names and go try to win the whole thing next year.
Amen. We'll see.
All right, man.
We'll see.
Any last thoughts, Brian, before we sign off tonight?
No. Looking forward to this week. We're going to make any Lions predictions. I think the Lions are going to blow out the Giants. I think Michigan, Ohio State are going to win, and we're going to have some fun next week at our retro show, doing some of those big games historically. Yeah, so I guess we can talk about it now, but we are planning for next week to be a Ohio State Michigan marathon every day next week, having a show
featuring a classic Michigan-Ohio State game to honor the Michigan-Ohio State week, and something both Brian and I are really excited about and to get working on. So a lot of great games to choose from, Brian. There's, we could do this show for years and never get through all the great Michigan-Ohio State games throughout the years that we've seen. So
yeah, for sure. Looking forward to it.
All right, so that will do it for us tonight. For Brian Barnes, I'm Dan Murphy. We'll see you again down the road.